We're back talking about Natsume's Book of Friends, episodes 6 and 7. These were a lot better than last week, so let's get into it. Episode 6, Natsume and his friends are hanging out when they discover a destroyed village, and Natsume in particular notices there's a yokai there as well. We see like this feather fall to the ground as Natsume falls to the ground unconscious as well. When Natsume wakes up, he's greeted by some yokai at his home who wish for their names back. The names the leader of the group reveals to Natsume that he and the yokai, that there's a yokai possessing him. The yokai possessed him so that she could see someone who, got away from the village she was from and like helped her out. Cause for whatever reason, I don't know that much about swallows, but they left the nest once they found out that the one that's our yokai had the scent of the human that gave her food and like put her back in the nest, and they leave her, and she turns to yokai, but her other siblings pass away sadly. They do find the man the next morning, and he isn't able to see Tsubame anymore. That's the name of her. So she isn't able to thank him for taking care of her even after, her parents abandoned her. The yokai from earlier that Natsume gave his name back to tells him about this race happening, and the winner gets to be a human for a day, and Natsume decides to disguise himself as a yokai to compete. Like he wins the race. Natsume gives the prize to Tsubame so she can thank the man who helped her before she has to go back to her resting grounds with her siblings. And she does get to see him, and the man shows Natsume a picture of them having a nice time together. And this was a really sweet episode. I'd give this a 7 out of 10. It was pretty good. It didn't have enough for me to go quite an 8. But I think there was some good development because Natsume like really connected with Tsubame. He really felt when she was able to meet her. There's just story-wise, this was just a decent episode. Episode 7, our yokai this episode is a fox boy who lost his mother and hasn't seemed to properly grieve her loss. Seems still not in denial, but he has this mentality of like, men don't cry. Natsume still is very formal with his caretakers, which I imagine he's been there for a little while now. I mean, it's at least been a little bit since he's been giving back names to the yokai, so he has to be at least been there for a couple months. So, but he still has that formality where he doesn't really talk to them. He talks to them like very politely, like not really in a proper manner, like addresses them in a certain way that's not familial. This line he mentioned to Nyako sensei that when he goes out, he's glad they for him to do something in return, but they did not. They did that only because Natsume felt guilty about he took some extra studying class and they had to pay for it, which they didn't mind, but Natsume felt really guilty about this, so this kind of helps. It's kind of like a nice incentive, like to give and receive in return. Study session, Natsume helps the fox boy from being bullied by these like really two rude yokai. Fox boy observes Natsume afterwards, kind of like a what's the term, like he grows attached to Natsume now, and picks up a little details on how he acts really fake around others. Like he thinks maybe Natsume is lonely just like him. Natsume lets the fox boy help him get shelter in the rain, because he could tell he really wants to help him. And it makes the fox boy happy, as similar to Natsume being happy he could help his caretakers. Natsume helps the fox boy again from being bullied by these just really rude yokai. Like, it's a child. Like, I don't know how yokai years necessarily work, but like, I imagine it differs. But this is definitely a boy. Like, it just seems really odd. These grown yokai, I assume, are bullying this kid. But anyway, there's this like really ugly looking tree yokai that asked for his name back for Natsume, and this scares off those bullies because they see Natsume's power. After the fox boy gets denied, he wants to help Natsume, like kind of be a servant type, but obviously Natsume doesn't want that. So the fox boy wants to see Natsume again the next day and gets the help from another yokai to be human for a day so that he can go see him at his home. Eventually find him with tracking his scent, but he sees he's a part of a family that takes care of him, so he's still feeling like, oh, I am still alone. Natsume picks up when that he came into his home, and this is when he comes to greet him, and this is when the boy, he finally doesn't hold back his tears anymore. This is like his time to let out everything that's happened recently with the death of his mother. Everything. This is his time to grieve. Natsume takes the fox boy back to his home, and he makes a friend out of him. He promises he'll visit him again, and the fox boy inspires Natsume in his own way to take action from his own life, because he traveled all the way alone to come see him. So that like inspired him to take action in his own life. This episode 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I really liked the yokai this episode. Kojitsune. They didn't reveal his name in the episode, but I just looked at Mal to find that. He's very likable. I like the episode talking about like grief, especially for young child. I don't know. I haven't. I'm curious like how, because yokai's like, it's an interesting concept. Like, how is, since this yokai doesn't have any family, like, he's gonna be okay? Like, because Natsume's not gonna be able to visit him all the time. Probably just something, it might get answered at some point. But yeah, I like I said, this reminds me of the earlier episodes of Natsume's Book of Friends, which I really like. It helps Natsume grow as a character, but we also get full development of the yokai in this episode. But that's it for these 2 episodes. I will see y'all for the next one. Stay cozy.